Hey everybody, my name is Ralph Rizzo, the owner at the Hidden Pet Fence Company here in Rochester, New York and Albany, New York. Today we're going to do a review on the Halo 5 collar. This is a GPS collar. It's one of the most popular that's being sold today. We did a review on this a couple of years ago on one of the earlier models, and we thought we would just get ourselves familiar with this. We do purchase multiple other brands of collars to test out. And this is the one that we're working on today. Again, this is the Halo 6. Basics, this thing costs us about $700 to activate it. There's fees that you have to pay monthly that range from $10 a month up to $30 a month. The collar claims to have up to a 48-hour charge, and we have only been successful at getting 12 hours out of it. It takes 2 to 3 hours to charge, and we're only getting 12 hours out of a battery charge. It needs to be charged in an area with strong Wi-Fi or cellular coverage. I'm not sure why, but that is definitely the information that they have that came with this. Some of the setup instructions. It claims to work on areas as small as 30 foot by 30 foot. I will tell you right now, this does not even come close to working properly in a 30 foot by 30 foot area. Not even close. But that is one of their claims. It needs to be set up in a full loop pattern, meaning it has to go around, say, your whole house or your whole barn. And I'll show you a picture of how that works a little. All right, so setting up this Halo 5 collar, I drew a diagram up here. I put some of the things that we went over in our other video about the do's and don'ts. So you do have to have 40 feet apart between the houses. That's only if the property line is directly in the middle. It has to be 15 feet minimum away from the road, meaning the boundary that you're going to create with the collar and the app to be the boundary marker, or the line, we're going to call it. It's got to be 35 feet from the road, or the house has to be 35 feet from the road. The boundary has to be 15 feet away from the road, and it's got to be a minimum of 20 feet from the house. That's where we came up with the 35 feet of your house being away from the road or the street. There's a lot of different things that work in setting this up. If you're in a housing tract where your houses are only 10, 15, 20, 30 feet apart, it's not going to work for you. The setup is going to be extremely challenging, and you could have activation on the sides of your house, or false activation, which we do find happens in all parts of the yard and mostly inside the house. But you want to understand that you also have to do a full circle around your house. So I've been doing this for 21 years now, the underground fencing with a wire, where we train the dogs and we can really kind of make the dog stay out of anything and let them go as far as you would like them to go. A lot of times customers only want their dog to come out the back door and stay in the backyard. So with this Halo collar, you can't just do a circle around the house. The dog wouldn't be able to leave the house and go into the yard. You still have to go around the house. We're able to do just a backyard zone with our fence, and we're also able to do a backyard zone that keeps them in the backyard with a separate front yard zone. So if they do get out a garage door or a front door, it'll stop them from leaving the yard. So we can do a 2-zone system or a 1-zone system where we keep them just in the backyard. And then sometimes folks have a fenced-in backyard but want a containment system in case they get out the front door because the kids open up the door, or the dog gets excited and runs out the garage door or something like that. We're able to do that with the fencing that we install, but the Halo collar, you're not able to do that. You have to have it go around the whole house. You can't come in and do what we call pinching the sides to keep them in the backyard only, because you got to be 15 feet away from the house. It gives off, it's supposed to start giving off the warning beeps about 10 feet from the boundary line. So it makes it challenging to get set up how you want it. If you want just a big boundary like this, so the dog can freely come out any door and run around the house, that's kind of the only way that we have found to set this collar up for it to somewhat work. There are other challenges too. I can't go over all of those challenges with you, but like I said, I've been doing this now for 21 years with a underground wire. We can kind of put that almost anywhere and do whatever customers need. With the GPS, the Halo collar, you're very limited to what you can and cannot do. The Halo collar is able to do a perimeter loop where you go around the property like this. It doesn't have to be a square, it can be a circle, it can be odd shaped, but it's got to go all the way around the house / garage. This is called a perimeter loop. We do these with our fences all the time. What you cannot do with the Halo is for other designs. There's other things that we can do as well, but these are the basic things or the most popular things that we do. The most popular one that we do is called a 2-zone system. This is where the house and the garage is in the center of the line going around the property. And the way that this works is if you let your dog out the back door, they stay in the backyard. So if people are walking their dogs out front, your dog isn't out front barking at them. If somebody's pulling in the driveway and you let them out the back, they stay in the backyard. If you're out front doing landscaping or washing the car, kids are playing and you want the dogs in the front, you can then let them out the front door so the dog can have the front area. So we're basically using the house and the garage as a pinching point to stop the dog from going from one area to the next. This is the most popular one that we designed for our underground fence. Again, with the Halo, you can only do the perimeter, meaning you let your dog out any door, they can freely run front to back anytime they want. You have no flexibility of knowing where they're at. So this is the most popular 2-zone with our system only. You can keep your dog in the back. People can walk up to the front door, pull in, and your dog can't get around to jump on them, scare them, bark at them, or whatever. Another type that we do is called the backyard only. So the Halo is stuck to this one only, where we can do a backyard zone only. People sometimes don't want anything in the front for various reasons, and that's fine. We can just do a containment system to where when you let the dogs out the back door, they stay in the backyard. We have the flexibility of doing that. Another popular one is a 3-sided system. I put some blue waves down here to show that we have a lot of lakefront properties that we do fences with. And we can do what's called a 3-sided system, meaning the dogs can have access up to the water. There's some downfalls to that where the dog can walk past, deep into the water, come over and come out. But we make sure that our customers understand that this is one of the downfalls of doing a 3-sided system. But again, you can do that with our system. You can't do that with the Halo collar. And then we have just a line. What that means is somebody's got a big, huge property. They don't want to put a wire all the way around it, or it's farmland, or they've got fencing around 3 sides of it. Whatever the scenario, if somebody just wants us to stop the dog from making it to the road from the front of their property, it's definitely something that we can do. Again, go back to the Halo collar. This is kind of what you're stuck in doing. The rest of this stuff we can all do with an underground wired fence. Training, they tell you it takes 21 days as a training program. I'll tell you that their training program is definitely not one that I would recommend, but you could do some research about their training. It's definitely something that isn't one that I believe in. What they're basically teaching you to teach your dog is this thing makes a whistle, and it's teaching your dog to hear the whistle no matter where they're at, to turn around and come back to the house. So imagine you teach your dog to come back to the house after this whistles or you whistle, but then they see a squirrel or a deer or the next door neighbor's dog or people walking the street. That whistle's not going to stop them. But they do have that in their training program. It's pretty lengthy. I just want you to think that if you're going to be in charge of training your dog to stay in the yard, that the biggest part of keeping the dog in the yard with this is that they retreat with a whistle. And if it just decides to randomly go off like it just did, I'm inside a building right now. That is the collar going off. I don't know if it's because I'm waving it around or what. They do have in their setup guide or in your training guide, and there's a whistle to turn around. They do have it in their guide that says take the collar off every time the dog comes in the house. So when I did a review on this brand of collar 2.5 years ago, we had the exact same thing happen. Walking into a house, walking into a garage, the collar's randomly going off, and obviously it's still doing that. So the size of the collar is something I like to show folks. I mean, see how big this is. This is the most popular collar that we currently sell right now. I mean, this collar strap of the blue is set up for about a 10 to 15 pound dog. We can go all the way down to 3.5 pound dogs with this receiver. And this nylon strap, we just make a smaller one. But this one here, they say the minimum or the smallest dog that you can do with this collar is about 15 pounds. You can see this is set up for a 10 to 15 pound dog. I'm not sure how this is going to stretch and wrap around that same size dog's neck. There's a huge battery pack on here. There's a huge receiver on here. It's pretty bulky. I'll put it on. I mean, you can see how tiny this is. For the one that we sell, this is the Halo 5. Look how big that sucker is. I mean, it's like a neck brace. I'm going to set that down because it doesn't like me waving it around. The findings that we had about setting this collar up, we did not just set it up on one property. We set it up on 3 different properties. The other thing that we have done is we do provide service in my offices for folks that buy stuff on their own. So we've had multiple people with this brand and other brands of GPS collars that we've gone out to help. And we got kind of mixed results, but kind of the same results. So one of the main things is on a sunny day, clear, no clouds, no bad weather, no nothing, no trees, no buildings in the way. It worked about 60% of the time, meaning if we were to test it at the boundary line that we set up, for it to activate where it's supposed to was only about 60% of the time. 40% of the time, it was before, it was after, and it wasn't before or after by inches or a couple of feet. It was 10 to 15 feet, 20 to 30 feet. If you have your dog's boundary set up to stay 20 feet from the road, let's say, and it malfunctions and they can go 30 feet past the road before it even activates, you could have a really bad situation with your dog. With the systems that we sell, we provide full training, a money-back guarantee. They work where they're supposed to. They don't activate in the house. Like, we have no issues with what we sell. But this particular GPS collar, and actually all the GPS collars that we found, very similar results. This one does activate better than the one that we tried 2.5 years ago. But when you are trying this system out and testing its functionality when it is cloudy out, bad weather, the results only get worse from there. So currently I am in Rochester, New York. We do have some snow on the ground. It's snowing a little bit. There's cloud cover. We get much more variation of where the collar goes off, where it's supposed to versus not supposed to go to, because there's clouds. So when you get to a cloudy day, expect this collar to not work near as much as the 60% that it works when the sun's out and there's no clouds. The big thing about it trying to activate and us testing it and working with battery life, we're thinking we're going to get a couple of days out of this battery. And the setup alone drained the battery so quickly, we didn't get the 12 hours out of it. Once we had the whole thing set up and we got done testing it a bunch, and then every day go out there a couple of times a day, test. And then, we were barely getting the 12 hours on a charge. We charge it up, try it in another property, exactly same kind of results, right in the 12-hour range, and sometimes less. So think about this: if you get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, let your dog out, and then you're letting your dog out for the last time at 9 o'clock at night, there's a good chance it's already going to be dead. The collar that I showed you earlier, I'll show you again. This collar is a rechargeable collar. It's the most popular one that we sell. And we get close to a month out of one charge on this. A month. We can't even get 12 hours or more than 12 hours on this other one. So just a little comparison. Another comparison I wanted to do was talk about the contacts that touch the dog's neck for them to feel a sensation. So this collar right here is the one that we sell. They're gentle spring contacts, meaning they are gentle on the dog's neck. They move up and down. These are our short ones. We have 4 different sizes that we use on these collars, and they all have the ability of moving up and down. So when they're touching the dog's neck and the dog is moving around, this is allowed to retract inside of itself instead of push further in their throat like the other collars in the industry. Now, I'm going to screw the contacts on that came with this collar. I had them off because I wanted to put it on my neck, but I didn't want it jabbing my neck, and I also didn't want it going off while I had it on. But you can see these. They don't move at all. They're solid metal. They touch the dog's neck. When the dog goes to lay down, they only press further up in their neck. The biggest downfall that I found of these collars, this Halo collar, is false activation. So walking into the house, walking into the garage, sometimes it activates, not all the time. So it wasn't a thing all the time. When I set this collar up at one property and tested it, it seemed to work really good. A few minutes later, I tested it again in a different part of the yard. And the way it was set up is if we created the boundary marker here, then the collar would start to beep 10 feet or so away from that property line that we set it, okay? So I'm going to call that the line, even though there's no actual line. So if it's here, it's supposed to be, as you get closer to it and you get within that 10 feet area, it starts to put off the beeping. And there were times to where it went off 10 feet away. Sometimes it went off 5 feet away. Sometimes it went off right at the property line. And there were times that I got 15, 20, sometimes even 30 feet past it before it even made its first beeping. Now I'm 53 years old and I don't move too fast. Imagine if your dog is now having this collar and chasing after a squirrel or a rabbit or going to see the next door neighbor. How far are they going to go before it actually activates? If it's supposed to be 10 feet before the line and my slow person but running across the line or walking through the line really fast can get 15, 20, it's up to 30 feet past the line or the boundary before it activated, imagine your dog cruising past there to go chase something. When is that thing actually going to activate? And again, they rely on the whistle to get the dog to turn around and come back to the yard. The one neat safety feature that they have on it is that it is supposed to turn off and stop activating when you turn the collar around and go back towards the house. And that did work pretty good. But if it's not doing anything when the dog turns around, what stops him from continuing going another direction? Eventually, the collar, in my opinion, is going to get confused when it doesn't know which direction the dog is going. And again, it's not something that I would ever sell or put my name behind. The one that we sell on that blue collar that I showed you, that system just works where it's supposed to. And it does work past the line if your dog is a runner, forces them back into the yard to shut the collar off. It's called the continuous boundary feature. But that's with my system, not with this Halo collar. Hi, so I want you to see over here, we put some flags up there as our virtual line of where we set the app up with the Halo 5 collar. So that is what we'll call the boundary line or the line. And then these two flags here represent 10 feet from the boundary line. So according to their specifications, this collar is supposed to start beeping approximately 10 feet from the line. Now, I'm gonna go fairly slowly, not that your dog is gonna go this slow, but I just want you to see where this thing activates. So we're gonna take this down. The sun is out or coming out. We do have a little bit of cloud cover right now, but here's the collar. So we got it to go off here, which is pretty good for a GPS collar, except it just went off here, which is another 6 or 7 feet. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7 feet. So 17 feet away, this thing, you heard it beeping, or I hope you heard it beeping. So I'm gonna come back into the yard again, and I'm gonna walk. Right here it started beeping. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to 7 feet past the boundary, but 10 feet more where it's supposed to start beeping. So that's 16 or 17 feet from where it's supposed to go and start to activate to where it actually did, literally 30 seconds away from each other. So it's still beeping, it's still whistling. So I'm plenty inside the safe area right now. But you can see the very first time it started to activate 8 feet from the line, and then the second time it started 16, 17 feet past where it was supposed to. And then it started beeping back here another 6 feet away. So I'm gonna take the collar again. That's all I'm gonna do, switch hands because my hand is cold. And I'm just gonna walk. So it started to beep about here, which is 4 feet past where it's supposed to. And at least it's not false activating like it did the first time we went through. So again, I'm gonna try it again. Right here it starts beeping, and again, that's 6 feet past the actual line that we made. I'm not sure if you can hear it whistling, but it's whistling to get the dog to go back. But we are 16 feet away from where it is supposed to activate. So now, the unfortunate thing about this collar is if your dog were to run after something, they don't feel any kind of correction to get their attention until they're into the road. This is just it's not the way that things should be, but it is still beeping. I'm inside, you know, I'm now 14, 15 feet past or back inside of the property line. When you start taking 17 feet, 15 feet, 20 feet from your actual boundary to where it activates, or activates before or activates after, there's a huge problem there for most of the properties, especially when your houses are only 20, 30 feet apart. It's not even going to be successful with that. I mean, we've got 50, 60 feet in between buildings here, with the property line kind of in the middle. And, you know, we're getting false readings for that, which is just, it's just a little ridiculous. So I'm going to go even further into the boundary, or into the property. And I'm going to run. Okay, that time it started to beep here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, then 12, 13. That's 13 feet plus another 10. That's 23 feet past where it's supposed to start to activate. So if all of the things that I told you about doing a review on this, the setup problems, the activation problems, the false activation issues, this right here is showing live how this actually works or doesn't work like it's supposed to. And this is only a handful of times that we're testing it, right? Imagine your dog. Imagine how fast your dog is. Imagine how far your dog is gonna get before this thing beeps or whistles or gives them any kind of stimulation to turn around and come back in. So this is the Halo 5 collar review. I hope this helps. Again, go online, go to the Halo support or the chat where there's groups of people that have had these collars for a very long time, and you'll see even more issues than I'm showing you right here. So again, I appreciate you tuning in to this recap video. We are going to be putting this another video up, or some pictures of if you're gonna set this thing up at your house, some of the things you gotta be aware of. We do provide some sort of support for this collar. We've tested them for several years now. This is the newest one. It's working better than the originals and the newer models that have come out since then, but this is the newest model. It still has the same basic issues that we had way back then. There's a lot of chat boards out there for you to do research on your own. Like you could be saying, well, you know, that maybe it works better, and he's just saying that. That's not something that I do. But this collar, if you were to just go on a search engine like Google and search for reviews or testimonials for this particular brand, especially this brand, because they do a lot of advertising more than most, you'll see that there's huge communities out there of people that have tried to use this collar, have tried to train their dogs, have found a lot of the same things that I've gone over, maybe even some bad stories to go with it. But there's a huge online resource where there's communities of folks sharing their stories about how good or bad this works. If you were to jump on my website, we have right around 500 Google reviews at a 4.9 rate. That's because we use a great product that works like it's supposed to. We train the dogs, we have a money back guarantee, we work with all kinds of dogs, all shapes, all sizes, all breeds, all temperaments. The condition response training that we provide is amazing. We do return trips. We just make sure that this thing works for you. If you're gonna try to save some money and go with this Halo collar or any other kind of collar, just understand there's a lot of possible issues that you can have with it. I hope this video has helped you out. Again, my name is Ralph Rizzo with Hidden Pet Fence and 1877dogyard.com. Thanks again for tuning in.